Okay, so we have finished up with our introductory reflection unit, where we've taken time to think about what it means to be Hispanic, what the Hispanic world is, and we can start really now being prepared to think culturally about this region and historically about this region. You have two texts for this class. This is what we're going to be getting into now. Your first, can you see that? Is your textbook, Latin America and Interpretive History. This is your general textbook. And then you have your source book, which is Consider the Source, Documents in Latin American History. Now, some of you bought these together as a course pack. Other of you chose to buy them separately on your own. Your source book may not look exactly like that one. I have the 8th edition. Many of you have the 9th edition, so some have a green cover, some have a brown cover. Really, that's not important. Either is fine. They have the same documents in them. They have a little bit different introductions to the chapters or forwards, but otherwise, you're using the same book. So for Unit 1, which is what we're going to be doing now, we are going to be doing Chapter 1 and Chapter 2 of the textbook and the source book, so you need to do both. Chapter 1 is about the land and the people. So it talks about the physical and the human geography of what is Latin America, or what we would call the Hispanic world. Now, I have students who have said to me, oh my gosh, this is a culture class. Why do we have to do so much geography? Why don't we just focus on the people and on the history? Well, geography very much impacts culture, and it very much impacts history, right? You are going to have different cultural influences and different historical backgrounds if you are living in the Andes highlands than from if you are living in a tropical rainforest or an arid desert area, or if you're in mountains with volcanoes. Your history could be very different and your culture could be very different. So physical geography has a very large impact on history and on culture. The other thing that the chapter deals with is the people that make up, or the people that came together to begin the formation of this Hispanic culture. So you have, of course, the Spanish and the Portuguese, who are the conquerors that came from Europe. You have the different Amerindian groups. And there's only a few that are talked about in the chapter. There were literally hundreds of different Amerindian groups. Amerindian meaning American Indian, who were present before the time of the conquest or at the time of the conquest. So we'll be hearing and reading about those. And then, of course, you have people who are of African descent, because African slaves were brought in to what is now present-day Latin America, into Spanish and Portuguese colonies in America by the millions. Many, many more of them were brought into the British North American colonies, or what is now the present-day United States. So, and then it talks a bit about the mixing of these cultures, and we'll have more of that as we're getting into and through Chapter 2. So that's Chapter 1, Physical and Human Geography of the region. Chapter 2, you'll be dealing with the conquest itself and the development of empire, or of the colonial period. So you'll be reading about the ways that the conquest took place, and then in documents reading about the attitudes of conquest, the makings of the conquest, and then the development of the colonial period, administrative, political, economic, and social development of the time period. And the same again with the documents. And we'll be thinking about things like how that time period could have a continued influence on the region and the culture today, and how the racial relations and intermixings would come to impact the continued culture of the region. So these are the type of things we're going to be doing. There are, along with these textbook chapters and source documents, a couple of PowerPoints for support. Now, just a word on the PowerPoints that I have put together as supportive materials. They really are supporting materials. They are not meant to simply outline the chapter. They are not meant to simply go along with what the chapter says. I personally would find that a bit redundant and boring to have the exact same thing as you are reading in the chapters. It doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. So what I've done for PowerPoints for all of the chapters we'll be doing in this class is made supportive materials that will take some of the ideas further, to explain some things, to draw out some interests. Okay, so they're not meant to just explain the chapters. They are meant to support and add to what you're doing with the chapters. Work-wise, besides reading the source book chapters and the textbook chapters, you have a quiz for each of them. So you have a chapter 1 quiz and a chapter 2 quiz. The quizzes are meant to be on both the textbook and the source book. So make sure you've read everything before you do them. We also have the Unit 1 discussion forum. The Unit 1 discussion forum is all set up. I have question prompts for you. You need to make sure that you respond to questions or respond to classmates. This really is meant to be a discussion, not just a bunch of people putting their answers out there. So please interact with each other in these discussion threads. Ask questions of each other. Respond to what somebody else has said. But I will emphasize that these will be polite, right? And they will be done respectfully. So make sure you do that. You know, interact with each other as you would in a traditional classroom setting, where you, even if you disagree, you respectfully disagree, right? You support each other and you draw out ideas from each other. And our course assistant, Sarah, will be interacting with you in the discussion forums, and she will be working to grade those discussion forums. So we need to get moving forward with Unit 1 and with chapters 1 and 2. So please, I ask you a couple of things. Don't skip these videos. I do take time to do them for every unit, and there will be occasionally times that I give you reminders, or that I ask you questions, or I give you extra information that you need. So the videos are an important part of each unit. Also, I will be posting the module and information for your research paper within the next few days. So you want to be starting to think about that major project for the class. And if you have any questions, if they're of a general course nature, please post them in the general discussion forum, because I can answer them then, or Sarah can, or your classmates can, right? If they're of a more personal nature, of course, email me, and we'll handle things that way. So let's get going with Unit 1.